Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Marsh Stream, your public performance broadcast platform. My name is Brianna Caver, assistant producer for Marsh Stream, and we are back again tonight for Tell It on Tuesday. Quickly, before we start, as many of you know, our theater doors still remain closed and we are unable to invite folks in for performances. So these free streaming performances are brought to you by patrons just like yourself, all who donate to our tip jar. The link is posted in the chat and is also available on our website at themarsh.org. Remember, all donations are tax deductible and 100% matched. We need you now more than ever so we can continue to bring these free streaming performances to our community. If you are watching us live on YouTube, welcome and thank you for joining us. Please make sure you subscribe to be notified when we go live and watch the hours of free performances, interviews, and events we have archived all right there on our channel. And now let's welcome your hosts for Tell It on Tuesday, Bridget Frederick and Rebecca Fisher.
Thank you so much, Brianna. We're so happy to be here. We're happy to be doing this. This is actually 1 year ago we did, this is our 1 year ago we had our first Marsh stream, an idea, of course, nobody ever thought would be a thing that we would do. And here we are. So it's sort of exciting. Bridget, do you want to say anything?
No, we made it through a whole year. Actually, we skipped March and came online in April.
Oh, that's right. Yes. For some reason, I thought it was April because time has no markers.
This marks the final performance of the year of Tell It on Tuesday performances.
Yeah.
So it's wild to think of, biking over to the Marsh or driving over to the Marsh for a performance when now I just sit in my living room.
I know, and managing just the technical. I have a dog, I see the kids around, but I love these nights, and I love that you guys should come and see these stories. And anyway, so we're excited about tonight. It's about an hour program, which I hope you enjoy. And our first performer is Ron Jones, and he has been performing with us since we started, which is now over 15 years ago. This is his first Tell It on Tuesday Marsh stream. So that's exciting for us to host him. And I'm just going to read his bio just so you guys learn about Ron. All right. Ron Jones is a San Francisco writer. He shares his Haight-Ashbury home with his wife, grandchildren, and singing garden. 3 of his stories, Acorn People, The Wave, B-Ball, have been made into award-winning TV drama. Kids Called Crazy was nominated for Pulitzer, and Say Ray honored as a Before Columbus American Book of the Year. Very impressive. I don't think I read the bio. This is great. Ron Jones is best known for his story about a Palo Alto classroom experiment on the appeal of fascism. Novelized by Todd Strasser and made into a German feature film, Die Well. Am I saying that correctly, Ron?
No, Die Welle.
Die Welle, thank you. Adapted for theaters worldwide. An extension of this story is available on Netflix series. Now, this has got me intrigued. We Are the Wave. So the Netflix series is called We Are the Wave. Inspiration for Ron's work comes from teaching 30 years with physically and mentally disabled at the Janet Pomeroy Center and volunteering with the Marsh Youth Theater. Well, I love this. Thank you. I love it that it's fresh to me and I can, we get to see it all together here. I knew this about Ron, but I just don't think I had kind of appreciated it. All right. Ron is going to be performing 2 pieces. One is called Brianna and one is Birds. So let's welcome Ron.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. It's a real honor to be here. I'm glad you're with us. This is about Brianna. Driving down the street, terrible tea, me and my baby, she's only 3. Singing along with the Willoughbys, ba 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 ba. She likes to tease, honey, then to please. I'm so happy. Look, there's a bee. Bump, bumpity bump, bakery, breakfast. She comes in the morning, whispers to me, wake up, Pape, look at me. I'm a princess, Lion King, Batman, silly, dancing and giggling. Can you find me? She's always hiding in the very same place. She hides under the bed, just a wiggling in place. I stomp through the house. Where can she be? Boom, 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 boom. Hey, I see you, brittle dee dee. Now, girl, why don't you try to hide in some new place? You realize you're always hiding in the very same place. Well, I know Pape likes to hide in the tub. It's my very, very favorite place. Wasn't always this way. This brittle diddle dee wasn't wanted by me. But her mother, my daughter, she was so strong. Bled on the floor, this baby was born. Brianna Marie, we called her Bree. Father's black, sitting in jail. Mother's so young, learning to fail. Along comes this child, black and white. What to be, what is right. Innocent eyes, just looking at me. Nappy hair, braided so tight. Soft melon lips, kiss me goodnight. Face that shines, always so bright. She doesn't know she'll have to fight just to be different, just to be free. Remember your grandma, Pape too, tangles in the kitchen making a sandwich or two. You can squeeze in, get between us, that's right. We're just hugging honey into the night. Telling me true, she's a big girl now. She can find bees and rhinoceros. She makes dirt soup and serves it to me. Every day we have this tea. Come on, Pape, sit with me. Asking questions, answering them too. What, where, why, who? Growing so fast, she can find bees. Soon we will part, this baby and me. She to a future, I'll never see. But every moment of my life, I'm with this grandchild, Brianna Marie. Now, let me tell you a little bit about her. What happened to this child? Here she is with the family. There's Deanna, and I'm at the other end. Next to me is my daughter, my younger granddaughter, Taylor, in the middle, and there is Brianna. Brianna was a really gifted athlete. She went to school here in San Francisco and then went down to a Black historic school, Prairie View in Texas, where Nike found out about her and really recruited her to become one of their executives. But at some point in that, I thought for sure this corporate life would be so appealing. She was interviewing people like Spike Lee. But she came to me one afternoon and said, Pape, I want to do like you did, work at the rec center. I want to work with people. So she went down to Howard University, got herself a doctorate down there, and she's a member of AKA. She's got the necklaces, and this is my granddaughter. But the best news of all, grandfathers do this. We have to show you our grandchildren. It's in our genes. So let me just share this with you. This is Brianna now with her husband, Patrick. And as you can see, she's about to have a child. So my wife and I will be great grandparents. Not just grandparents, great grandparents. We've always been great, sort of, but now it's official. My grandchild, Brianna Marie. The second story comes from living in San Francisco and during the pandemic and looking outside and actually charting the birds that live in my backyard. I got birds. I got birds living in my backyard. Let's face it. They love my backyard. They love to do loop-de-loops off those warm currents of air, fly on top of my roof and kick gravel on my head. These birds eat those pyracantha berries. Very drunk and smash into my window. These birds. Well. Everything was copacetic. That means fine, until one day my neighbor Mr. Arthur P. Anderson, placed upon his deck a blue pool of water. The bluebirds thought it was theirs. Every morning they lined up with little blue goggles, little blue inner tubes, when swimming in their little blue pool of water. Brown birds thought to themselves, we'd like some water too. Perhaps if we did some brown bird praying, we'd get some water. And that's just what they did. No water. Bluebirds became very arrogant and superior, like bluebirds tend to get. And they even invited one of those brown birds to come up and sing to them. She was a long-legged brown bird. Bluebirds were very excited. Hey, baby, take off those feathers, honey. Whoa! Brown birds became very alarmed. They got the water. Now they have our women folk. No more praying, brothers and sisters, but some flying and some shitting. And that's just what they did. A spiral of brown birds high in the sky, and at just the right moment, they lifted those little brown feathers of theirs and they shit all over the bluebird. Bluebirds were really angry. They found themselves the biggest bluebird they could find. You know the kind I'm talking about. Now the brown birds were very alarmed. They have a stealth fighter bomber bird. We better do something fast. They found themselves the biggest brown bird they could find. Now these two big birds, they could no longer sing. They could no longer fly. But they were lifted high in the sky by their respective societies, where in the middle of the night, they screeched at each other. Whoa, lost their balance. Whoa, fell to the earth. Boom, boom. Beaks first, feathers flying. Little brown birds and little bluebirds got around. Brothers and sisters, are we going to spend the rest of our lives watching brothers and sisters fall from these towers in the sky? Along comes a red bird, a mother bird, a poet bird. When a red, red robin comes bobbing along, oh, there ain't no more trouble when she starts singing that ooh, sweet song. Wake up, you sleepy heads. Get up, get out of bed. Live, love, laugh, and be happy. But I said she was a poet bird, and she put those little red feathers in the sky, and she sang a song of freedom that the children had not heard before. Mother and child too tired to sleep. Freedom is the right to eat. Curbside saints are hearing voices. Freedom is the right to choices. Briefcase soldiers trying to go to war once more again. The dream is that they too might get older. Child in the playground slowly swings. Freedom. Freedom is life's simplest things. So little brown birds and little bluebirds got together, like Malcolm X said, and Gandhi and Dolores Huerta, and made themselves a pool of water to go in to swim together, brown birds and bluebirds. But most important of all, they learned about freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from hate, freedom for everybody, don't you know? Not just somebody. There's a moment in time that comes to everyone, this moment in time. It's not expected, Something is wrong. Injustice right in front of you. What will you do this moment that is here today? Will you speak out loud or pray it away this moment? The choice you must make for silence and fear, or risk that will take you to freedom. Freedom. What will you do? There is a moment. Birds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. That was great.
Pleasure.
I was watching in the comments, and one of the comments was, please write one about the crow.
Good idea.
Thank you, Judith.
Good idea.
So that's wonderful that we're thinking of different perspectives on it.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this Tell It on Tuesday now. Rebecca Fisher and me, Bridget Frederick, we've been hosting Tell It on Tuesday for 15 years. And I think, Ron, you were part of one of our performances in our first year.
1837.
And he's been back just about every year since. So thank you so much for being such a strong part of what we do.
Great. It's a great community. We are very gifted to have all these voices.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very strong. So thank you, Ron. Do we want to say anything else before I introduce Jeannie?
No, just excited to have Jeannie. She's performed through the years as well. And
Jeannie came to us through our class, didn't she?
I think so.
And
Way back.
she's been working with Stagebridge and working on her own pieces. So, and this round, she was working with Jeany Haynes to develop her piece, which is how she came to us for this. So I'm going to read Jeannie's bio right now. Jeanne Lupton has told several times at Tell It on Tuesday and is delighted to be back with new work about her ongoing recovery from mental illness. She is a well-published tanka poet, which is 5-line Japanese form of poetry. And she participates in the local and international poetry scenes. She leads a weekly memoir group for seniors. So Jeannie is going to be doing this piece entitled Old Sitting Woman. So let's welcome her.
I stand shivering on the ledge at the highest part of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, looking down at the choppy water, 186 feet below. September 9th, 1973, a rainy Saturday morning. I'm 28 years old and my life is over. An ex-boyfriend had killed himself the month before. I had always thought we'd get back together. I have never felt so alone. I've struggled with mental illness for almost 10 years now, and my grief is turning to paranoia. I'm full of terror and rage. I want to be with him in death. I want to escape the torment I imagine is coming at me from other people. Emotional pain I can't live with. Imaginary pain really hurts. A car goes by and honks. That feels like a push. I step off.
Jeannie, you need
Yes.
to. Yes.
So go back to I Step Off the Ledge.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? I step off the ledge. I go unconscious. My life force or God or something protects me from the terror of the fall through the air and the plunge deep into the bay. I feel none of that. Someone screaming help wakes me in the water. It's me screaming. I'm floating spread eagle in the rough waves, my back in pain, screaming, help, help, trying not to drown. I do not want to drown. I had thought all I had to do was step off the ledge to be dead. A booming voice calls out, help is on the way. I look up through the rain to the bridge and see a white truck in the middle of the bridge with traffic backed up on either side. The voice seems to come from the truck. I hear a boat, a motorboat. Then the boat is next to me. A man throws me a rope and I hold on. He pulls me aboard and wraps me in a blanket. Are you okay? He says. My back is killing me, I say. You're safe now, he says. You're going to be okay. I'm in and out of consciousness. I learned I was in the bay for 45 minutes. My spine was fractured and I would be in a back brace for 6 months. I was the 15th to step off the ledge and the 3rd to live. I learned there were sharks in the bay. Had I known that, I probably wouldn't have done it. My rescuer writes me a love note and says that I have animal magnetism and would I go out with him? Sadly, I did not answer him. This was my second and last suicide attempt. I wasn't any good at it. I'm glad of that now. I was taken to Northern Virginia Mental Health Institute. I spent 3 months there and began to feel better, so I went back to my apartment and my job. I was a legal transcriber, and I was good at my work, so I always had a job to come back to after hospitalizations. I had stayed at the state hospital 3 years earlier, after my first suicide attempt at age 25. I had taken all the pills on my parents' kitchen windowsill, my mother's estrogen and my father's Dilantin. I had a period for 6 months, but I was relaxed. This is Old Sitting Woman, who I sculpted in the state hospital 50 years ago. I'm very fond of her. She's something of a self-portrait. These little balls are poems that she births, and she's open-minded and open-hearted, and she loves to sit, as you can see by her shape. My life was reckless chaos for 16 years and more. My illness began in my sophomore year in 1964. I was 19. For 12 of those 16 years, I was in and out of mental hospitals, and I did no writing at all for almost 30 years. I alienated my family. I thought I lost the affection of my 3 siblings, Lynn, 4 years younger, Jack, 6 years younger, and Laurie, 11 years younger. Most of the time, I felt terror and rage. My emotions and feelings were exaggerated. The Thorazine prescribed at the hospital did no good, and I'd stopped taking it. Finally, in January of 1980, I was prescribed Haldol, and Haldol saves my life every day. I know it doesn't help a lot of people, but it helps me. Sometimes it takes a while to find the right medicine, and some people aren't helped much at all by medicine. I was very fortunate to have found this help. It was still a long time before I was able to live well, and I'm still working on it. The medication was the beginning of my healing journey. It's a lifetime process. I was in therapy for many years. One of the important things I learned is that I am not my illness. I had thought that that's who I was. At age 46, in spring of 92, I began to write again. My father had died the previous winter, and I felt sadness, but also relief, a new freedom. He was domineering, and I was never able to stand up to him. My father was a proud seventh generation Virginian from a conservative Quaker family. I think he felt humiliated by what he saw as my failure. In May, 3 years later, I had my first haiku published and began my life as a published poet. Here's the haiku. It doesn't make logical sense. It's more image and atmosphere. Pungent bath soap in the farmhouse kitchen, snow on the prairie. Since then, I've had over 100 tanka published. Tanka is a 5-line Japanese poetic form, over 1,400 years old. Haiku broke off from tanka as the first 3 lines and became its own poetic form in the 1600s. Tanka invites the expression of the poet's feelings. Haiku is more objective. Here's one of my tanka. 60th September, honeybees wild in yellow blossoms. I was born for middle age. And this year I'm publishing a collection of the first 25 years of my tanka with Blue Light Press in San Francisco. Along my healing way, I had a loving relationship with a wonderful woman. This opened my heart and my mind. Menopause was healing for me as it enabled me to finally think of something besides sex. And I quit smoking and I quit drinking. The day before 9/11, I was diagnosed with the first of 3 breast cancers. And I said to myself, war on the inside, war on the outside. Where do I want to be and what do I want to be doing? Well, I knew I was going to come back to California. I'd been here for the summer of love, living in San Francisco. And when I left in December of 67, I told my friends I'd be right back. It took me 35 years to get back to California. But on the summer solstice of 2002, I flew back and was here to stay. No longer California dreaming in Virginia, California living in California. To move here was a healing for me. In the autumn of 2008, I moved into Strawberry Creek Lodge, senior housing in Berkeley. And at age 63, I was home at last. I live with my black cat, BB, and 150 other seniors, and I love living here. This year, I'm serving as president of the Tenants Association. It's an honor, even though I was unopposed in the election. People did vote for me. It's an opportunity to build relationships and develop community. I have a small studio apartment, and the main room is a bedroom and a living room and the cat's main residence. I have a kitchen, a bathroom, and a balcony. And from the rocker on the balcony, I see lots of sky and hills and green. I love my apartment. I spent a lot of time here last year after shelter in place began a year ago. 2020 was a good year for me with lots of quiet, free time, and solitude. I know many people are suffering with the pandemic, the stress of isolation, financial trouble, ill health, and over 500,000 people have died of COVID in the US. Last year, I did the keto diet, intermittent fasting, and began yoga classes on Zoom. I walk most mornings in the neighborhood, enjoying the changing light, the aroma of sage in a neighbor's garden, the rain. In 2020, I had a personal record of 26 tanka accepted for publication. I feel better than I ever have. March 21st last year, I was reading the big book of Christian mysticism, and suddenly I felt an intense, perfect love in my heart. There was warmth and a golden glow and a deep feeling of peace and joy. And to me, this was God. I think in part it was my work on my health that made possible this epiphany. I began to meditate twice a day, and books have helped me. On June 11th, the Saturday before Father's Day, I was reading Marianne Williamson's The Gift of Change. And I would stop reading to pray, and then I'd start to cry. And when I finished crying, I'd go back to the book, and this happened 3 times. The third time, I was reading about atonement. Atonement, to my understanding, is telling God your mistakes, asking for a better way to live, and somehow making it up if you can. The book said, if you feel like making amends, go ahead and do that. I immediately thought of my baby sister, Laurie, who lives in Maryland. Then I decided to call Lynn in Colorado and email Jack in Texas. My mental illness was diagnosed late in its progress as schizoaffective disorder, which combines the symptoms of schizophrenia and bipolar illness. My illness was devastating for my family, terrible for my parents. During the onset of my illness, I was in and out of my parents' home until I moved out for good at age 25. I would sit in my room, not talk to anyone, smoking menthol 100s and drinking coffee, and I'd go down for dinner and not talk to anyone, and nobody knew what to say to me. I was a burden. I was dead weight. I was desperate for my father's approval, and I never got it in this lifetime, but I hope he's forgiven me up there in heaven or wherever he is. My mother would always help me get back to the hospital when I had paranoid episodes every 2 years or so. My baby sister Laurie was only 8 at the onset of my illness. We had been very close her whole life until I left for college, and a year and a half later, I came home broken, unable to care for anyone, not even myself. She was hurt and angry for years. My sister Lynn seemed able to separate me from my illness over the years. To her, I was still me. And I think Brother Jack's concern was mostly for how my parents were hurt by my illness. The next day I called Laurie, and trying to hold back tears, I said, I am deeply sorry for all the pain I caused you and the family during my illness. There was a pause, and then she said, is that all? And then we laughed, and she said, well, I know I hurt you too. And she said, I love you. Then I wrote to my brother. He had not spoken to me since our mother died 24 years before, so he was angry about something. I emailed him, I am deeply sorry for all the pain I caused you and the family during my illness. And very soon he wrote back, I've forgiven you. I cried tears of joy. We talked on Christmas Day and on his birthday in January. Then I called Lynn and I said, I have something to say. And she said, okay. I said, I'm deeply sorry for all the pain I caused you and the family during my illness. And I told her I'd spoken with the other siblings. She said, I'm so glad you're doing this. I said, it probably needs to be said more than once. She said, "Not to me." And then she said, "You have always been my big sister." In those few days, I cried more than I had in past decades. It was a tremendous release. My illness had caused pain to my family, and though I did not feel guilt or shame and I didn't hurt anybody on purpose, I felt responsible. Our phone calls and email were a healing from estrangement for me and for my family. Now my sisters and I meet every 2 weeks on Zoom, and I feel we're connecting on a soul level. We meet on Zoom with their kids and the kids' spouses every other month or so. A few years ago, I had a hand analysis done. That's the updated version of palmistry. I was told that my life purpose is healer in the spotlight. I feel this story is a healing I can offer as one way forward out of darkness into more light. The healing continues. I'm grateful to be alive and well, thanks to a lot of help from a lot of people. Like old sitting woman, I love to sit, but now I also do walks and yoga, and I birth poems. I'm open-minded and open-hearted, and I'll leave you with a poem. To be a woman, we are made, not born. At 75 on, I'm making some progress toward an open heart. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
You're
for
welcome.
sharing that with us. What a journey.
Yes,
It's very heartening to hear.
thank you. I enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, and thanks for being with us over the years. You volunteered with us for many years, helping us with box office, and yeah, you've been around for a lot of Tell It On Tuesday history. So
I love Tell It On Tuesday. I'll be back.
okay, good. All right. I am going to introduce our final performer of the evening. So Linda Joy is our final performer, and there's a lot of information here about her, so I'm going to read for a minute. Linda Joy has been creating and performing monologues and personal stories since 2005 in California, Washington, and Arizona. Relocating to the Bay Area in 2016, she studied with David Ford, took improv at Bats and storytelling at Stagebridge, where she performed in their Valentines Show at Piedmont Center for the Arts. She was commissioned by the Marsh to create a piece on the Brink for its Times Unseen festival in the fall of 2018. She claims that the Southern California coastal strip from La Jolla to Encinitas is home, but she's lived in major cities, suburbs, and rural areas in 16 states and in Japan. Beginning college at the University of San Diego as a theater major, she performed both in campus productions and in community theater. Later, she earned an EDD in language, culture, and cognition, and a PhD in sociology from Northwestern University, and became a professor. And tonight, she's going to be sharing a piece with us that is called Only, Always, and Forever. So let's welcome Linda Joy.
Linda, one thing is if there's sometimes the syncing doesn't work, but the audio is beautiful, so sit back and enjoy the show. And
the syncing of the video and the audio is a little off,
yeah.
is what she's saying. Yeah.
So anyway, that's all part of the times. So enjoy the show or the story.
Summer 1965. The Beach Boys were singing, "I wish they all could be California girls."
Oh, never mind that my mother made me wear a one-piece bathing suit with a little skirt, and my hair wouldn't go blonde. I was a California girl living in the most bitchin' place in the whole world, a small beach town north of San Diego, famous for surfing. I had turned 16 shortly before that summer and had just graduated from high school, class of 65. My parents wouldn't let us 4 kids go to the movies, but that summer they made an exception for Sound of Music. And when I saw Maria walk up the aisle of the cathedral in that beautiful wedding dress with the long train, I pictured myself doing the same when I graduated from college. But first I needed a boyfriend. Oh, I had plotted and connived to meet boys, hoping especially for a blonde surfer. But I was thwarted in these efforts by going to an all-girls school and having parents with Victorian mindsets who themselves were already in school before World War I. And then Mom doomed me to a women's college nearby when I had wanted to go away so I could lay on the beach at UC Santa Barbara in between my classes. What was a girl to do? Every night I hope and pray a dream lover will come my way, because I want a boy to call my own. I want a dream lover so I don't need to dream alone. And then there he was in my family's living room, an older man of 20, tagging along with his brother who was there to visit my much older sister. He stood up when I entered the room, a sure sign of a gentleman. Somebody made the introductions and our eyes met. And it was a lock on. You know how like when the Navy fighter jets are chasing the enemy plane and they lock onto it on the radar? That's how it felt. We didn't just look at each other, but into each other's very souls. When he returned to Santa Clara 3 weeks later, he sent a card that said simply, "I love you." And I wrote right back, "Dear Drace, I love you too." A grown-up man loved me, a man with impeccable manners from a good family of the right religion, so my parents wouldn't object. Oh, how proud I felt to be holding his hand at midnight mass, and protected when he shielded me from the wind on the Coronado Ferry, and treasured when he said that one day when I was old enough, he wanted to make me queen of our home. For the next 3 years, we made our plans. He would be the breadwinner, take care of the finances, the cars, and put the garbage out before going to work at an office every morning. And I would bake and sew and knit, love our babies and raise them well, and welcome Drace home every night with a long kiss. We agreed on an old Spanish-style house and on sending our 5 children to Catholic schools. Gone to the chapel and we're gonna get married, going to the chapel of love. In the world we came from, we were expected to be virgins at marriage, especially me. And he was expected to present himself as a virtuous man who was saving himself for marriage, even if the truth were different. And this was no technical virginity. All we could do was kiss and hug, no roaming hands. But for a girl who had never held hands with a boy before, and who didn't know how a woman got pregnant, it was a lot. Back then, before freeways, bucket seats, and answering machines, it was easy to believe my little world would never change. Even in 1967, I had never seen a hippie or knew anything about what was happening up in Berkeley. After 3 years of writing with intermittent visits, Drace enlisted in the Army. His father was a Navy admiral, as his grandfather had been, and he was steeped in military values. More and more troops were being sent to Vietnam, and he felt it was his patriotic duty to go. The night before he left, we danced at a party on a friend's patio. Lonely riverside, wait for me, wait for me. I'll be coming home, wait for me. We promised to love each other always, only, and forever, and to get officially engaged when he returned. I would be 21 then, a grown-up woman. At first, I wrote letters to Fort Hayes, Fort Carson, Fort Dix, and then to an FPO box. And he would write letters with these little red felt hearts he had cut out and doused in his cologne. So when I opened the envelope, it was like he was right there. By this time, I had transferred to a college in the far north of Utah, another of my mother's picks when I had begged to go away to school. I came home one blustery November day to find a package from Drace. Oh, what could it be? I tore it open to find everything I had ever given him, with a letter that said, find someone else. It was crazy. It made no sense. There'd been no clue, nothing. And now this? You've lost that love and feeling. I wrote and wrote to Drace, never getting an answer. I wanted to fly to Vietnam and beat on his chest and say, you can't do this. You love me always and forever, remember? It makes me just feel like crying, baby. Bring back that love and feeling, 'cause it's gone, gone, gone. I found some beer in the fridge that my 21-year-old roommate had bought to take to a party. And for the first time in my life, I got rip-roaring drunk, locked myself in the bathroom, slid down the wall to the floor, passed out cold. Time passed, and on a co-ed campus for the very first time in my life, distractions were everywhere. But when you eliminated all the Mormon boys who would date only Mormon girls, the pickings were slim. I was asked out by a bow-legged cowboy majoring in range management, a Trekkie who went out shooting cats at night just for fun, and a guy who thought he was being tailed by the FBI. And then there was Robbie, a boy the same age as me, 19, with a great smile and a ready laugh. His slender 6-foot body was perfectly proportioned with the cutest little tush. His blue-gray eyes had these long, thick lashes. His lips were just made for kissing. When this gorgeous specimen of humanity flirted with me with those eyes, I felt a hormonal surge I had never experienced. It didn't hurt that he drove a new 1969 fastback Mustang with California plates, and he wore these beautiful sweaters. He belonged to Air Force ROTC, planning to be a jet pilot. When he asked me to his fraternity's formal dance, I was stoked. I told all my friends back home that I was madly in love with Robbie. But was being madly in love the same thing as loving someone? What should true love feel like? And Drace had told me he loved me after only seeing me 3 times. How long would it be before Robbie said something? Robbie didn't know the no roaming hands rule. And I forgot it too when I was with him. He was gentle, taking his time, treating me as if I were some sort of rare art object. I loved caressing his flawless skin, his hairless chest, the curve of his butt, though my virginity was not in danger. But it made me wonder, could you really be in love with somebody if you didn't just crave the physical expression of that love? Oh, sure, Drace had a handsome face with soulful eyes, but he was barrel-chested with relatively short limbs for his long torso and struggled with weight gain. He was serious and deeply religious like I had been. But Robbie, he was alive, and he made me come alive. He became my Lancelot. One time when a creepy guy in a pickup truck with a gun rack was tailing me around town slowly, I ducked in a phone booth and called Robbie, and he came and got me immediately. After that, he gave me rides wherever I needed to go. One night at a frat party when he got a little too drunk, he handed me the keys to his precious Mustang so I could drive myself home. I decided to stay in Logan that summer. Trouble at home. Better to stay away. All my girlfriends went home. Robbie went home to San Francisco. When he failed to write, it felt a little bit like when Drace deserted me. And then I had this nightmare about Sister Linus from my girls' high school. And she was saying what she always said, girls, boys put you up on a pedestal and then they try to tear you down. But you mustn't let them, or they will never respect you. And no decent man will want to marry you. Oh my God, that was it. I had forgot the no roaming hands rule. And now Robbie didn't respect me anymore. Oh, it was then that Robbie's roommate came along. Hey gal, I'm taking you out for a steak dinner. Put some meat on those bones. It was nice to have a new friend. Dave didn't call me in advance and ask me to do things with him. Rather, he just showed up on my doorstep on the spur of the moment and announced what we were going to do right then and there. It was sort of like having my own personal activities director. He was older, bigger than Robbie, a 23-year-old senior, whereas Robbie was California cool, listening to Wolfman Jack on the radio at night and wearing his sunglasses in the snow. Dave was an upstate New York man's man. Motorcycles, rum, rum, car grease under his nails, shirt tail half in, half out, drinking too much, sleeping too little. He was in a constant whirl of activity all day long, and then stayed up until the wee hours of the night working at a nightclub to pay his way through school. Actually, school wasn't his thing. So when he found out I had started school in the 3rd grade when I was 6, he asked me to write his English papers. He said it wouldn't be cheating. I would just be helping out a friend. Some girls may have thought that Dave was pushy, overbearing, but you could also say he was persistent, good at cajoling and pleading with people. A guy who wouldn't quit until he got what he wanted. All I had wanted were some hugs, a peck on the cheek, but his kisses were hard. His body was heavy on top of me. I don't think he meant to hurt me. It was just, he was going after what he wanted, ignoring my protestations, only to say, "Don't worry, I've got a condom." It was always the girl's fault back then, and I was left with a heap of Catholic guilt. A couple of days later, I tried to explain to Dave how I felt about him. You're a good friend. You're a special friend, but... And then he burst right in. "You're trying to say you love me, gal." My God, that wasn't what I meant. But could I stick a pin in his balloon now when he was riding so high? And besides, he didn't say he loved me, so what harm would it be in just letting it pass? And then Robbie got back into town and acted as if he had never been away. And he was still as irresistible. So soft, so gentle. So then it was like I was dating Robbie on Friday and Saturday nights, going out dancing, partying, and making out like crazy. And then seeing Dave on Sunday and Monday nights when he was off work. And then Dave said he needed me, he loved me. When it was Robbie, I wanted to say it. What would it take for Robbie to say it? A couple of days after Dave and I announced our engagement, Robbie came by the apartment late at night while Dave was at work. He sat on a kitchen chair and pulled me down on his lap. "Don't marry Dave. He's not a good match for you." And then he gave me a long, passionate kiss. And for a moment, I wanted to throw my arms around his neck and say, "Okay, I won't." But he didn't say the one thing I needed to hear. So I got up from the chair. Dave and I were married 2 months later. Robbie was the best man. Did you ever have to finally decide? Say yes to one and let the other one ride. There's so many changes and tears you must hide. Did you ever have to finally decide? This is part of a longer piece that I'm developing at this time, and I want to thank my director, Rebecca Fisher, and all the crew at the Marsh. Please tip. It's a wonderful organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Thank you so much. And what came to mind as you were telling your story is just, I thought about just how these stories were all so different and the way that we can go about them, like the style, the poetic style of Ron, and then the sort of larger journey that Jeannie covered. And then, you know, sort of kind of from the chaos from off the bridge to the peace, and Linda, the kind of archetypes and sense of time that you cover, and conventions and religion, and sort of naivety and youth, and what is romance, the larger questions, or what is love, and anyway, so it just was interesting. What struck me is the way these stories were all told very differently, and the stroke of the story. So thank you. Thank you. Bridget, did you have anything to add?
Thank you.
Sorry, I was typing a message to Brianna. Yeah, that was really sweet. It was interesting how you wove the popular music into the story, and yeah, really nice
Yeah, the
we
sense of
capture
the
sort of that,
aging.
that period of time too, the whole religious and virginity and
Yeah. Yeah, and youth, and so in Catholicism. Anyway, so it was really great to feel the stroke of people's way of telling stories. So thank you, all of you. So we would like to let you guys all just let us know. Do you have anything before we send everyone off? And again, remind you before you go, we just want to hear from each of them. If they have something to tell us, to please give to the Marsh. We're very, very fortunate that we have this venue that people can still be creating and giving to community through the Marsh stream. All right. Anybody? Ron, did you have anything coming up?
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to Charlie Barron. I'm taking his writing class, and I really enjoy the women writers in that group. And we're going to publish, I think, the writings all about the pandemic. The second thing might be that the wave had taken me to Livingston, Missouri, where I met 3 high school students. This was years ago, but one of the students had her brother lynched. So there was racism and violence that they were experiencing as teenagers. I wrote about it, then I buried it in the basement, and I just retrieved it and sent it to Amazon, so it's available as a book. It has a readership of 1, so it's a hot book. It's called Vacant Lot. It's a true story about 3 kids. That's my life.
Thank you. That's great. Jeannie, anything you want to let us know about?
Just that Amazon, I know that's a dirty word to some people, but they're going to have my book later this year. It's called Love is a Tanka, and it's by me. So
Yay!
Check it out.
Say that title again. Love is a
Tanka, Tanka.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
And Linda, I want to hear the ending of your story.
That's great.
Well, actually, this is just the very beginning introduction, and there's a whole lot more, but it's not going to continue as a narrative about me necessarily, but it's about the times, and it's about, again, the question, what is love and how do you find love, especially in an age when you can only do it by computer, it seems like these days.
Yeah. Good piece.
ongoing question.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You guys, thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Brianna. Thank you so much to the Marsh. We're very lucky. Again, remember the Marsh tip jar. That's what makes it happen. We're very happy to be here, and we will see you next month.